Okay, good morning, sir and all my classmates. Based on yesterday's presentation, um, I will explain about observation and how is it related to my thesis proposal. My partner, Lina, will explain about interview in different video. So observation. It is a type of data collection which does not rely on self-reports. So in qualitative observations, the observation has its own advantages, and in qualitative, it has its own advantages. However, in observation, this is an instrument used only in qualitative study. So the observation of behavior occurs yields first-hand data without the contamination that may arise from the test, inventories, or other self-report instruments. And observation allows the description of behavior that occurs naturally. Observation of behavior in natural setting also allows the researcher to take into account important contextual factors that may influence the interpretation and use of the result. In observation, it is much less controlled because it allows observers' conscious judgment to determine the content and sequence of what is recorded. In quantitative study or observations are more controlled and systematic, and it relies on numbers to summarize what has been observed. There is inference, and inference is divided into two types. There are low inference and high inference. The low inference happens when the observer does not have to interpret what is seen. So either the behaviors are present or not, and the observer makes no judgment about the meaning. For example, asking questions, or wrote objectives on the board. And the second one is high inference. It is when the observers are required to make and record a judgment or interpretation to see relevant behaviors and to make inferences about their meaning. For example, it is classroom management or asking questions. There's this type of laboratory observation. It is the most controlled observation technique. It is a specified environment. So a specified environment is created by the researcher and the observations are recorded during study. A well-structured form or procedure is used to record specific or specified behaviors that have been identified before the study begins. Low inference observations are made, and method of summarizing and analyzing the observations are specified in advance. And the emphasis of this observation is on the objectivity and standardization. This laboratory observation is usually the study is experimental study. And then there's this kind of characteristic, the demand characteristic and deception. In demand characteristic, the subjects in the laboratory observation may give biased responses because they know they are in experiment and they are being observed. However, in deception, the subjects are not told the real purpose of the study. It is commonly used to reduce the effects of demand characteristics. But there are serious ethical problems with lying to subject, even if they are debriefed after the study. And then there's structured field observation. This is a natural observation because it is intended to measure the frequency and or duration of predetermined behaviors. And then it is intended to indicate a number of times a behavior occurs during specified time period. So this is of course a qualitative study. It uses structured field observation. And then observer effects. In reading observation research, there's a potential limitation that the reader should be aware of. The first one is observer bias. So to avoid this bias, there's 3 steps of procedure. The first one is there should be evidence that the observer has been trained and will provide reliable result. And the second one is 2 or more observers should independently observe at least some of the same behavior to avoid bias. And the last one is bias can also be the result of prejudice towards certain races, for example, gender, characteristics such as physical attractiveness, social class, and exceptionalities. And then the second and third limitations are contamination and halo effect. The contamination occurs when the observer has knowledge of one or more aspects of the study, and this knowledge affects subsequent observation. Contamination also occurs if the same observer is assigned to more than one type of group. Yet, it is likely to occur when specified behaviors are targeted for observation, when observers are trained, when observers do not know about expected outcomes, and are not told which group are the experiment and the control group. The last one is halo effect. It occurs when an observer allows an initial impression about a person or a group to influence the subsequent observation. So the halo effect is an inappropriate generalization about all aspects of the observation. And like other sources of errors in observation, the halo effect is reduced with adequate training. Now I'm going to move on to discuss about my thesis proposed title. I chose the topic students' motivation and its relationship with their academic performance. Therefore, the title would be the relationship between students' motivation and their academic performance. I proposed 3 research questions here. The first one is what kind of motivations have by the English department students of Widya Mandala? And the second one is what does the relationship between students' motivation and their academic performance? And the last one is how they are related. The methodology, the design of this thesis is of course correlational study, because this study will use a survey method to collect the data, because the survey is useful in collecting data on phenomena that cannot be directly observed, such as motivation in learning. The subject would be the senior year of undergraduate students in the English education study program. They are in the academic year of 2017 and 18. The data is their academic scores, of course, from the first, third, fifth, until the 7th semester of throughout their study. And the students respond to the questionnaire. Therefore, the instrument would be the questionnaire itself. A survey questionnaire adapted from Gartner Attitude and Motivation Task Battery. And the instrument would consist of 10 questions, which the first 5 questions we'll discuss about the intrinsic motivation, and the next 5 questions would be asking about their extrinsic motivation. So I guess that's all from my presentation here. Thank you for watching.